I mean,
Yeah,
look.
Like,
man. I mean,
yo, that shows how much you care about what you're doing, you know? Like, to me, that's the utmost, like, display of, like, like, yo, I care about what I'm doing. And like, most people like to pretend that they don't care, or like they're too cool. And it's just like, yo, do you care about what the fuck you're doing? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, when you're a good artist, you know what I'm saying? Everything's quality. Look, when we work at this stagehand shit, if I'm working and I'm doing something, I'm caring about with my coworker. So if I
yo,
say something, if I do something, I'll be like, you know what? Let me make sure that this key is out of the ignition of the fucking the truck that I was driving, or the forklift or whatever, or put it in some place where it's gonna be visible, so it doesn't make a time difficult for them. Cause it's about quality. It's about,
yeah,
and that's how you do. And quality starts with care. You
we
gotta
care.
care about your
Absolutely.
shit. You
Yep.
gotta care about like the music you put forth. Like when I do my
Yep.
music, I'm doing research. I'll read a fucking book. If I got to. Sometimes I'll read a book and get a line. I'll go to the gym and go running so I can have better breath control so that my performances and showmanship is up to par. You know what I'm saying? Like Don Tique and myself, as you know, we've been in this game since '94 and earlier. But I'm saying when we met each other, and this shit didn't happen by night. We ain't no Backstreet Boys. They ain't make us from scratch. You know what I'm saying? Our relationship on record developed organically through a period of fucking 25 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so we just kept rocking and rocking and rocking and rocking. And look, we did one album in 2000 and didn't come out with another album to the Static Files in 2020. That's 20 years, B.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shows how long
20
the friendship
years.
goes, though, how deep it goes.
Yeah, and why we could, and that's what a lot of thing what this shit is about. Is about friendship. And even through a pandemic, um, we were on our will was not compromised. I mean, you know, I had COVID and shit. I was on Frio Dub ramen with COVID. And we lost people to COVID during this shit. That's a fact. I ain't saying no names. We all know like people that we lost and shit. I'm just saying like,
Yeah,
but that didn't stop nothing. You know what I mean? Even through this COVID period, like we lost people not necessarily through COVID, but in during the pandemic, we lost people.
during the
Even
pandemic. Yeah,
Vice passed away through not that he had, but you know, in this period, and yet the music
yeah,
still goes on. And Zoom is now popping, and EO Dub continues to more. And EO Dub was even given props to by like Lupe Fiasco and Talib Kweli, who recognizes what it means as a cultural institution for hip hop in the New York City area and throughout the world and shit like that. Because if it wasn't through EO Dub, I wouldn't have never met Immortal Technique, and I would never traveled the world. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily. I would have always known Don Tique, obviously, but it was through those travels that I met some fans that were able to put in money for a GoFundMe to finance Static Files, which the money generated from Static Files was able to finance the next record, which is what we talking about now, Ghost Lineage. So you know what I mean? And there was a lot that had to do with EO Dub.
Yeah, I mean, if it
So
wasn't for,
everything is wild connected, B.
if you gotta think about it, if it wasn't for Yo Dub, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
word.
That's 1,000%. If it wasn't for EO Dub, me and Dutch wouldn't never meet each other, or we never
Yeah,
even would have been work. If it wasn't for
facts.
EO Dub, there would be no
Yeah,
groundworks,
no,
all that shit.
I, I, I look at all my entire hip hop family, and like the family that I've built through like the culture, and like that family is absolutely completely 100% all linked to EO Dub. So, like and it's not even like I'm the guy, right? Like you and my brother Jess, right? Like are
Yeah,
like two of the guys that are like, yo, these are people that like EO Dub puts on like the main stage and like praises, right? I'm not even like you guys, and still my whole family is tied in through EO Dub. You know what I mean? Like I'm not the
yeah,
guy
like
that was at EO Dub every Sunday, but and still my whole family is linked through EO Dub. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't
That
know
shit.
none of the people that I call my brother if it wasn't for EO Dub and going to EO
Nah.
Dub.
Yo, dub is like that's a glue because that shit been, you know
The
what I mean?
glue.
It's really just put everything together, and it's all purpose. It's all means something in some sort of universe. This is connected in different ways that I cannot explain. Everything that I've seen, even with my travels with Immortal Tech, or even with other people that I know, even me knowing Akon through my man school got murdered and shit. Even with my man Juan passing and shit like that, all that shit is connected in some sort of way. I just can't connect the dots, and I don't know what it means, but I know that somewhere at the end of this shit, there'll be some meaning made from this. I just don't know where the pieces fit at this point. But I know like these albums are trying to explain that shit away. I know that. So like the next album I got coming up, I think is gonna be called Legend Black, cause there was a, you know, I told you I always call everybody a legend and shit like that. And one day I was walking, and I saw my peoples, and with his daughter and his son-in-law, or his daughter's baby's father. She was pregnant. She didn't have a kid at that time, and I didn't know the young kid was an up and coming rapper who was pretty dope. I didn't know that at all. So I'm just out there. I just came out of having COVID, and I'm just happy to just be alive. Cause COVID was life for me. I was asymptomatic like a motherfucker. I lost a cousin. They put him on a ventilator. And my man Jose, he's 35 years old. He died. He had 3 kids, and it's sad that 3 kids are not gonna have a father and shit. But when I was out there, I was talking. I was like, "Yo, what's up, legend? This, that, and the third." And I was cracking jokes. And the girl was happy as hell. She was pregnant, and her baby father was there. And once I left, my man Vic was like, "Yeah, yo," he said, my man got so he loved the name Legend. That you said Legend, that he wanted to name his unborn kid Legend. And then
That's so
the kid got murdered.
wild.
The upcoming father, I mean the father, the upcoming rapper, he got murdered. And I didn't know that the kid's name is Legend Black though. The last name is Black, so it's Legend
What?
Black. And I was just
That's
like, yo, that's
crazy.
gangster. That's somebody like, cause of you, the kid was named Legend. And I'm like, that's bugged the fuck out. And so I was thinking probably the next name of the album, and I was trying to think about it with Don Tique, would be as a homage to that rapper who was pretty dope, who never got to see his day, and so many people don't get to see their day. Called Legend Black, and that's what we was trying to. That's the next theme of the.
That's dope.
It's the ongoing lineage legend
Yeah, yeah. No, I already
idea,
see it. Yeah, I already
but
see it. I hear it.
but in this one I'm trying to be like Legend Black, and this is homage to those who like remember in Legends Never Die, that song, but building upon that, like all these legends that never really made it. Because people celebrate lives of old motherfuckers that made it. But how many hood stars you know never really got to see? Look at that dude, Little Snoop. Never got to see he was such an amazing artist, and look how quick he got taken out. And so many lights out there, so many beautiful people that we never
Yeah,
know, that never got to tell their story. That's another ghost lineage type shit. And so it's a build on that. It's a build on that. I don't know, like we've already started some of the tracks, but I really want to dabble into that theme called Legend Black. I think that's gonna be the name of the next album, Legend Black.
That's dope.
that
And
sounds
there
like
is an
it.
actual kid named Legend Black.
That
You know what I'm
sounds
saying?
like that's the natural progression, and you already you already just right now you literally fucking walk the path to connect those two. You know what I mean? Points in
Yeah.
time. Those two albums. You just connected them. So how could you not do it? What you gonna fucking
Everything,
call it
you
something
know,
else? Like,
everything got poetry involved in shit like that, and I feel like this one we need to go down deeper into this whole where does this whole legacy legend lineage shit lead us to? You know what I'm saying? And if the root is connected to something else, or if the root just gets abruptly cut and there's nothing is connected to, and that's it. That's as far as it goes, and then move
Right.
on to something else. It's like when somebody be like, "Oh shit, man, I made it this far, this, that, and the third. Oh fuck, I can't go anymore." But sometimes, like, it's just like trees, right, or poles on your block, right? You got certain trees are not as big as the utility poles, right? So like you gotta climb down the tree and then climb up the utility pole to go be up farther than the tree could go. You know what I'm saying? And or the vice versa. You know, trees continue to grow. But let's just say, like in that analogy, it's like you can go up but so far at one thing, but you gotta go back down and cross over to go back up again that journey to go even higher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's the way I look at life. I don't look at life as like, oh shit, I took a loss. Nah, I went as high as I could go at this point, and I just gotta go back down, walk across, go up another fucking pole, and then reach another height. And I think that if you look at things through that perspective and that lens, it 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 puts everything in a different. It gives you a whole different insight, and I think that's what each album is supposed to do. You're supposed to go out from the height of whatever it is, go down, then climb up, and then go into everything. Every or each album should have a psychology. Immortal Technique was adamant about that when he spoke about constructing albums. Um, that each album should have a psychology. It should be a personality. It should be a person. You're creating
Yes, it
essentially
should. I
a
agree.
individual and shit like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that you should have meaning behind what you're writing because of the fact that you're fleshing this person. You're putting the eyes, you're putting the heart, you're putting all this shit together, and it's gonna be somebody. Whether it
Yeah.
comes out fucked up
When
or
you,
somebody good,
yeah,
it's
it's
another
an
thing that you
idea,
made.
right? And it's
Yeah.
born inside of somebody else, and it keeps being born in others, and it gets stronger and bigger until eventually, like literally, there's people that are being born that are the living embodiment of the idea that was
I,
put forth.
that's what I think, and I think things start as ideas. I was reading this book. It was this book called Sapien and shit like that. I think the author is an Israeli dude, and he was saying that a lot of things in the world that we live in, great civilizations and nations were created off of myths, like ideas that aren't real. It was the imagination of somebody that said this is what it is, but it's not really. Like the people that died because of Greek gods and Zeus and all this other bullshit, and then come to find out that none of that shit is anything. It's nothing. But people put their whole lives and staked their whole lives on it and died and sacrificed their lives. And people sacrificed their lives to these things that didn't exist just because of the fact that it allowed them to unify themselves under a belief system. And a lot of times, if you believe in a lie long enough, it becomes true. And sometimes all we
Facts.
got is the truths that we've been told all these times. So everything starts off as an idea, you know what I mean? But it, now that we know what is a lie and what is a truth, even though we coming up with these lies today, because today's truths are tomorrow's lies, right?
Right.
Right.
Um, are we gonna try to make it at least closer to the truth than the lie is gonna end up being anyway?
And actually,
That's
there it goes in reverse, like you said. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Like
can go in reverse.
today's
Shit that
lie,
was
today's lie is tomorrow's truth because like science fiction movies have like been for years like being science fiction, and then like as the years progress, they
Yeah.
become science fact,
that
and
yo
it's
that
just like,
that is gangster. So like that's why the power of an idea is something
yeah,
that's like is amazing to me. You know what I mean? Like what we put down on record, we gotta understand like right now it's gonna be it caught up in a generation where everything is saturated with a bunch of records. But give or take a couple centuries and shit, people are gonna be looking back. Let's say if there's some sort of calamity or some sort of disaster and your record just happens by chance to make it. What you documented, is it worth them memorizing? And that's something that's always been real deep to me when I write shit. Am I writing some shit that many moons from now, let's just say by chance or some sort of nuclear fallout, my shit is still exists on record when no one else does? Did I end up being the perfect example of my generation and what I had to at least offer as a human being?
Mm.
And
hmm,
that's the way I believe how records should be um, thought about when you create them. Now, not everybody got to do that, but that's what I
nah,
think about when
yeah,
I'm thinking about doing a record. Like, this is an idea, and will this idea withstand the test of time? And will I be on the right side of history with it, or will it be on the wrong side of history with it? And will it actually be something that resembles more of the truth of the day? Because that truth in itself may end up being more of a lie, or will it end up becoming more of a lie? You know, saying when it gets when it's aged properly and pulled out that wine cellar. I'm just thinking like, yo, that shit bugs me out. And I always want to be on the right side of history. I always want to be that when someone looks at it, they'd be like, well, this really aged well. I seen somebody that was talking about the situation with the Taliban, and he was like, and this is before Biden was talking and stuff. He's like, the Taliban will never be able to take over the government. They're not da 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 da. They're not organized da 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 da. And this is an Afghani, but you could tell he was an Americanized person, or he was an American, Afghani of American, from America, Afghani American, right? And you could tell his perspective was tainted by a Western view of things and shit like that. But when shit really happened, the Taliban did take over the government, and they did it in no time. It didn't take that long and shit like that.
No,
And
no time at all.
everything that he was saying was false. And I'm like, wow, that
That did
didn't
not age well.
that did
That
not
did not
age well.
age well.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, is the music that we creating, and when people hear it many moons from now, do we have that insight? Do we have that experience? Do we have that that spirit of discernment that can withstand and age well through the ages? And that's what I'll be thinking about. I think a lot about when I'm writing a song. I'm like, what am I writing some bullshit that this is nah. Sometimes you could write a stream of consciousness, even in your stream of consciousness, if you are so connected to yourself, if you connected to the true self, this shit could land on a mark
Right.
10 years from now. You know what I'm saying? I always contemplate about that. I'm not deep when it comes to doing music. I just don't want to do shit that's just bullshit. I want to do shit that, and sometimes overthinking about it could kill the idea in itself. So there's a lot of different variables involved when you're trying to create a perfect record for yourself, but also create a perfect record for generations to come, and not the ones that you see in front of you. You know what I mean? So like, that takes a lot of insight. It takes a lot of knowledge, and that's I always look for that that point. I'm always looking for them eureka moments when I'm creating to be like, all right, this is sound, and this is good. And Don Tique helps me create that. He helps me develop that because I don't gotta put all the work into it. I do what I gotta do, and he fills it up on his side, and then we're able to kind of like come to a conclusion on what we want within a record that could be sound quality.
Right.
So, but you know what I mean? Like, shit, I could talk about this. Remember that time, Dutch? We was talking on the phone. We was on the phone for like 5 hours and shit, talking about shit. So,
Yo, we were having a great conversation. It's
Yeah.
it's okay.
yeah,
I
man.
love I love
No,
I love when yeah. Go
your
ahead.
brain is like you're one of those people where I'm like, this is awesome. I just gotta sit here. You're just good. You're just and you're interesting,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
basically
You're
like,
not saying nothing that's trash.
and we're
I'm
just
not
like,
sitting here like oh man, none of this makes sense. This is all a bunch of
nah.
hibbity hoopla.
And it's
No,
also
this
like
is all
your
this is
delivery is
all
like
like
on
yeah,
point.
yes,
It's like
yes.
a storyteller of yesteryear relaying, like this is what I picture entertainment was back in the day before there was all the tech we have. Just really well spoken
Yes.
orators orating.